It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 661 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record. I have two great conversations lined up for you today. Joining me first will be Jay Gibb. Jay is the founder of CloudSponge. And following my talk with Jay is another in my series of weekly conversations with my partner in crime, Bridget Gleason, Vice President of Sales at Logs.io. Now, this week, we're talking about, Bridget and I are talking about the 3 R's of sales. Just like there are 3 R's of elementary education, reading, writing, arithmetic, so too are there 3 R's of sales, and you'll have to stick around to learn more about those. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends at Discover.org. The Discover.org platform is a game changer for sales and marketing professionals. The feature-rich sales intelligence platform is supported by 250-plus researchers who continually update contact data and provide account-specific insights to help sales and marketing teams break ahead of the pack. You can see it at discoverorg.com/schedule-demo. That's discoverorg.com/schedule-demo. Okay, joining me on the first segment on Accelerate this week is Jay Gibb. Jay has built CloudSponge on the belief that the best time and the easiest way to get a customer referral is to ask for it when closing an order. Now, for those businesses that close deals online, Jay and I talk about how to generate leads or customers from your existing users' contacts. It's really an interesting way to think about how to automate some of your prospecting in a very targeted fashion. Again, a very interesting approach to this challenge. When I first heard about it, I thought, we should share this with people because I'd never heard about it before, and I thought, this is very clever. All right, here we go. Let's have Jay join us. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. So, where do we find you today?
Pasadena, California.
Pasadena, California. Now, do you go out and watch the Rose Parade?
We go see the after parade float viewing because it's right down the hill from my house and it's a little less crazy. So you can just they park at the end of the parade about 11 in the morning. They park all the floats for a couple days, actually, and you can buy a ticket for $10 and just leisurely walk around and go look at the floats and have a churro. So we usually do that.
Well, I did that once. Actually, I saw it before the parade. And yeah, it's stunning. They are all made out of flowers.
Yeah, all kinds of organic stuff, fruits, vegetables, and flowers mostly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so I got a question for you that is sort of my standard question that I used with almost 100% of my guests here, and that is, in your opinion, what's the single biggest challenge facing sales reps today?
Well, I wouldn't call myself a real professional in that, but from what I see from both sides of the table, being a guy that sells a product and also one that is the recipient of hundreds of terrible sales pitches every month, I got to say that it's personalization. Like, it's very rare that I get somebody contacting me out of the blue who's actually done some homework and actually personalized the message for me. I'm not talking about putting my name into a dynamic variable. I mean, actually spending 10 minutes and making sure that my product is a fit for what they're selling.
Right.
Every now and again I do, and it's amazing. Just happened the other day that there's a company called G2 Crowd.
Sure, I know them quite well.
And yeah, one of their SDRs emailed me, and she had made maybe a 90-second video of herself. It was a screencast with her face in the corner, and she said, "Hey Jay, I see that you've got CloudSponge has a couple reviews on G2 Crowd. I just want to show you what your experience would be if you actually became a customer of ours." And she showed me sort of, the administration panel of the CloudSponge account, which had, stuff on it that I recognized that was about my business and from, the prospects that I was talking to that day and that week. And I felt compelled to reply to her. I didn't have a choice. It was so personal. Not only did I reply to her and have a conversation with her, I applauded her on LinkedIn and I said, this is how it's done, people. This is the way you do it. And now I'm sitting here talking about it on your podcast. So I guess, it's paying dividends for her at this point.
Yeah.
But, that kind of stuff, I just don't see enough of it. It's the way to sell, in my opinion. That's what we do at CloudSponge. I don't know why more companies don't do it, because the conversion rate's got to be like astronomical compared to everything else.
Yeah, well, it is an interesting question. Why not? I mean, I think people sort of drink the Kool-Aid about this idea of mass personalization or personalization at scale, and it's a myth. I mean, what they're talking about is doing just what you said, is just putting the first name in a dynamic variable field in a mail merge, and off they go.
Yeah, that's not personalization the way that I think about it. Maybe it is like in the industry terminology, but when I think about it, I'm talking about something where, the SDR, can maybe reach out to, 5 or 6 people per hour, which maybe that's not a scale, right? But something where they actually take a few minutes, do something that shows me that you actually are talking to me, and I'm not just, I'm not just a variable in a spreadsheet.
Well, yeah, I get, anywhere from 5 to 10 pitches a day for people wanting to be on the show. And the ones that, definitely catch my eye are the ones that are authentically personalized. The ones I hate when it's the obligatory first sentence is, "Hey, Andy, I'm a huge fan of your podcast." As soon as they say that, it's like, nah, they've never listened to it. But if somebody says they've even listened to one episode and could say something about what happened in that episode, then at least opens the door.
Right. Yep.
So tell me a little bit then about CloudSponge, or tell us, everybody, not just me. I'll share it with everybody. What CloudSponge does.
Yeah, okay. So CloudSponge is a software as a service company for online businesses that want to generate leads or acquire new customers from their existing users' contacts and networks. So instead of making users flip between windows and tabs to copy and paste contact information from their address books, or sometimes making them figure out how to export and import a CSV from a CRM or from their contacts, CloudSponge provides plugins and APIs that are designed to let them access their contacts natively inside a website, so that they stay focused and refer more people and don't get distracted by going to a different application on their computer to look somebody up. So we're in the business of keeping people really engaged with our clients' websites while they're looking for contact information in their address books.
Interesting. So if somebody, let's say you've got well, we'll get into several examples later, but worst case, a typical case is you can have somebody say, "Hey, they're at a website, they're joining a service, and the service says, 'Hey, invite your friends.'" And so rather than having to leave that site to go look up your friends in your Gmail or whatever, is you can actually invoke that contact database direct from the website.
Exactly. Yep.
That's pretty cool. So what was the impetus for starting the company, and what was the sort of crying need that you saw in the marketplace that you were filling?
Well, the origin story is a pivot, really, where, we originally started building something else where
most companies start that way, by the way. At least the ones.
Yeah, exactly.
I probably interviewed 100, 150 tech CEOs, and I'm not sure that any of them started off or end up doing what they start off to do.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I mean, it kind of is how it is, and we were building something else, and one of the core features, one of the main things that we needed for this other thing was address book importing. And so at the time, this was 2010 roughly, we tried everything, right? We tried using open source packages. Like back then there was this one called Open Inviter, which was pretty popular, that's been abandoned now. We tried, there was some scripts you could buy and install, like PHP scripts and stuff that you could sort of buy and try to get them working. And there was a company called Octazen that had this big crazy infrastructure you could install that kind of made it was like a scraping machine that made you into like a moving target. It was all, the whole industry was just really complicated, and nothing was great. Nothing really worked well. Nothing was reliable. And so we ended up building it ourselves and just doing all these integrations with different places where people store their address books. And just, during that journey, as we were building it, and we were asking questions and searching for, IPs, documentation and things like that, we were side by side in all these developer forums, Google developer forums, Yahoo and Microsoft and Stack Overflow and all these different places. And we just saw that there was tons of other developers building the same thing and asking the same questions. And we were collaborating with other people and realized that, we should just stop what we're doing here from like a business strategy perspective and pivot to just selling this thing, because this thing obviously already has a market. There's already a bunch of people that are building this and wish they didn't have to. So we just put a price tag on it and decided to sell it as its own product, and companies have been buying it ever since.
So wanted to sort of look at some specific examples, and one that I thought was interesting you have that you profile is Airbnb, and where basically they're using your product to be able to have people invite or give people coupons that they can redeem when they invite friends to join Airbnb.
Yeah, that's one of our kind of famous logos, but also our most common use case, which we refer to as the referral programs use case. And just to be clear, we didn't build Airbnb's referral program. Like, this is well documented. There are a whole bunch of geniuses at Airbnb put that together. But the one part of their referral program that we deliver for them that they don't want to build themselves is the address book importing part. So, for example, if you log into an Airbnb account, either as a host or as a guest, and you go to, you find their invite or invitation feature where they're asking you to refer your friends, somewhere on that page, there's going to be a form field, and everybody who's listening has seen this form field before. There's going to be a form field where they're asking you to type in a comma-separated list of email addresses, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's seen these fields a million times. And so that form field operates all by itself without CloudSponge in a manner that, functions if somebody has their friend's email address memorized, or if they only want to type in one or two people, they'll do it. But as soon as that user needs to look somebody up, now you're losing them. They have to go to a different tab and open Gmail, or they have to open their address book on their phone, or whatever it is they're doing. You're going to lose their interest. And so what Airbnb does is they buy the CloudSponge product so that they can plug a Gmail button right beside that field, and an Outlook.com button, and a Yahoo button, and an AOL button, and whatever other buttons they want. If the user is using the German version of Airbnb, then they're going to put GMX and web.de, because those are the popular web mail providers in Germany, and so on and so forth. Those are all of those buttons are powered by CloudSponge, and we once a user clicks on one of them, we engage with that user, we authenticate them, we get permission to read their address book, we give them an alphabetical list of all their contacts from their address book, and they're able to search and select and sort and kind of interact with their address book in a user-friendly way. And when they're done and they close our widget, the field that's requiring a comma-separated list of email addresses is just stuffed full of whoever they selected.
So it's like a checkbox. You go through and check which contacts you want to have included.
That's right. Yep.
So a question is sort of in light of all the uproar about Facebook and privacy and so on over the last couple of weeks, or last 6-7 months or more. Are there concerns? People that sort of using that type of feature?
Yeah, I think there's concerns at every level, right? We have concerns, and our customers, our clients, our prospects, the people we're talking to, ask questions about that all the time. And the end users obviously have their concerns as well. And so we do our best to address that at all of those different levels. From our perspective, we don't save those contacts. They sit in memory in our server while the session is happening. Mm-hmm. And then once we've sort of delivered our product to our client, our customer, that just gets purged from memory. Nothing ever gets written to disk, and there's no PII stored anywhere in our infrastructure. We do save some metadata about the transaction, like when it happened, the IP address, how big was the address book, where did it come from, that kind of stuff. But the actual contents of the address book and the person who uploaded it, none of that is ever saved anywhere. And then really, it's something that I've got the data to show.
Well, I had to ask the question.
A lot of people are perfectly comfortable doing it. I mean, it's something that while one of your individual listeners may or may not be the kind of person that would ever upload their address book that way, I can tell you that hundreds of thousands of people per day use our system to do it. So it's a pretty popular use case.
Yeah, well, I would imagine. I mean, to me, it's we have largely a small, mid-sized business audience, and yeah, if you're selling a service, you're closing a transaction online, and there's no better time to ask for a referral than right after the deal is closed. I mean, you want to do it later as well when they're a satisfied customer, but when people are sort of in the the excited glow of having made a decision, it's a good time to ask.
Yeah, the way that we compartmentalize the different use cases for CloudSponge is that, when we talk about referral programs, we distinguish that from the other use cases by the fact that there's some kind of monetary reward for either the referring party or the referred party. Right, which there's a lot of
coupon or a discount, basically, right?
Yeah, usually it's a coupon or a discount on your first purchase or a discount on your next purchase, or famously, Dropbox would give you an extra 100 megs of free storage when one of your friends signed up. So it's not always money. Usually it is, but not always, right? Sometimes if the company does have something other than money that they can offer, they'll start there, right? But that's for us, the referral program use case involves that, and really part of the reason for that is because the application that our client has to build has a lot more considerations than some of the other use cases that we have. One of them is fraud, right? They got to worry about that. They have to figure out, when to reward these people and when not to, and how to write their terms and conditions and legal stuff to make sure that they're able to claw those rewards back if they change their minds about them and things like that. So so it gets a little bit complicated, and that's why it deserves its own sort of separate use case in the way that we talk about the different ways that people use the product.
Yeah, well, one that I think will be of particular interest to this audience and our audience is because it's, as I said, predominantly a sales audience, is talking about using it for CRM import. So tell us about that one, how that works.
Yeah, so that's a use case where we have a plugin that once the user authenticates with their address book and they give our customer permission to read it through CloudSponge, we omit the interface that requires that they search and sort and select people, because we know that the use case here in our client, they just want the entire address book, right? And the CRM import example, we've got a case study on our website for a company called Gainfully. That's it's a financial services platform for financial advisors to be able to stay in compliance and be able to deliver financial news to their prospects and leads and customers. And so for them to be able to use the Gainfully platform, part of their onboarding experience, part of the first thing that's required once to actually leverage the tool that's been built is to populate it with everybody in your address book, right? So that's why it's such a critical part for that, that CRM onboarding use case. And something else that's very similar to that.
Well, so just to make sure I'm clear, so Gainfully requires new users to allow access to their contacts? To be uploaded into Gainfully CRM system?
That's right. So imagine that you're a financial advisor and you've got a whole bunch of clients that are depending on you for financial advice. and you go to Gainfully and you sign up with their service, the first thing that they're going to tell you to do is upload your address book. Right. And the way that you do that, you upload your address book, and now you're able to communicate with your own customers, and they'll give you basically all the different tools and things to communicate. And that's their value proposition that they're offering to those financial advisors.
Yeah. Right? So their clients are financial advisors, not investors themselves. So
that's right. Yeah.
Right. So it's a tool for investors. Okay. Got it. Well, that makes sense. I hadn't connected the dots on that yet. So I was like, you get the investors to upload there. Oh, interesting.
And so a very similar thing in the CRM import is actually social networks, right? So right now, if you log into your Yelp account, which is a social network, with reviews of restaurants, but they're also trying to set it up so that you're able to, connect with people that within the Yelp network. There's a feature in there, just like most social networks have, where they'll say, hey, upload your address book so that we can connect you quickly with everybody that who's already got a Yelp account, right? And so that's another example where they'll take your whole address book and they'll match everybody in your address book against the entire Yelp database, and then they'll present you with a screen that says, hey, the following 55 people from your address book have Yelp accounts. Would you like to follow them all? And most people say yes to that, so they can see sort of what restaurants their friends are reviewing and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you're describing it, you can sort of see where some people might. I mean, as a vendor, I think it's great if you get people to ask to do it and you get the information, but it does seem a little scary for some people, I imagine. So the other interesting application you talked about in the website was fundraising and crowdfunding. And yeah, I think this is really a great tool for people for this is that, again, much after you just purchase something, you've reached a peak of excitement about it. It's a great time to share. Talk about fundraising, give the example of Kiva. It's been a platform around for quite a while that for fundraising and so on is a great way to share your passion with friends and family.
Yeah, I mean that's the use case that we call invitations, and so it applies to fundraising. It also applies to like event invitations and e-cards and gift registries and things like that, where you've got a user and they've just gone through a process of creating something, such as a fundraising campaign in GoFundMe or an e-card in Hallmark e-cards, that they're going to send out for, a holiday or, something along those lines. And at the end of that process, you want that person to be able to share that, invite people to join, to RSVP for their party, or invite people to view the e-card that they made, or invite people to contribute and donate to a fundraising campaign, right? And so, the growth activity for our clients there, it doesn't usually come with a reward the way the referral program does, but it does come with a new user, right? They're getting basically their users to bring more people into their platform. Mm-hmm. Usually they make them, create an account in order to take the action that their friend is asking, like RSVPing or whatever. And that gives them a new target, a new lead, and, a new, growth opportunity. And that's why, they want to optimize that part of their flow. They don't really want to make their users type everybody that they want, type email addresses for everybody that they want to come to their meetup. They want to make it easy for that person to go and just select people from their address books. And so that's where we kind of fit into their UI flow.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example is, putting on events is, being able to invite people to come, or, doesn't even have to be mass, but it could be, one or two people. And I think this is be pretty effective. You said, do you know one person or do you know two people? Be very specific that you'd like to invite to this, and then having that access to the context. Compliance has to go up quite a bit.
Yep, absolutely.
And so, from an implementation standpoint, what's it look like for the app vendor or the website owner in terms of what they have to do on their end to integrate your tool?
So there are a lot of ways to customize it, and so it's kind of a long answer sometimes. But
I guess what I was trying to get to is how turnkey is it?
Well, in the situation where we have a client that has, like I was saying before, like a field that is accepting a comma-separated list of email addresses, and they want to just, point our widget at that field, it's turnkey. It takes about 5 minutes. You just paste the JavaScript in your page, point it at the HTML element, the field, and you're done. You can optionally, configure the way the colors and the fonts and make it match your site, and you can do all kinds of other stuff optionally if you want to. But if you if you really want to get just started quickly and do an experiment to see if it's going to improve the performance of that interface, it's less than 10 minutes for sure for anybody who's got that. For the the more complicated use cases such as the CRM import, it takes a little bit longer. It'll take a couple hours, because really what you've got to do there is our JavaScript widget is going to post to a webhook, right? We're gonna take that payload that was just imported, and we're going to post it somewhere for you on your server. And you have to write something that's going to receive that payload and save it and process it, right? So it's a little bit more custom integration work for that use case. But for the people that generally just are looking for, a way to improve the user experience of something that already exists, it's usually pretty trivial.
So is that something you help people with, or do people typically use their own resources? Both,
yeah. If they ask for help, we always help. But we try to create a lot of good FAQs and self-help and code samples and things like that, so people can do it themselves and sort of discover how to do it before they even start a trial or before they sign up with us. But anybody who emails us and asks for help, we'll dedicate some technical resources to rolling up their sleeves and making sure that they get value out of the product the way they need to. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I just think that's when I first came across CloudSponge and heard about what you were doing, it was like, wow, this makes sense. We'd sort of talked before we started recording about, these apps that can dramatically improve productivity or, conversions in this case, that sort of fly beneath the radar that perhaps deserve, broader recognition. This to me is one of them that, if you're looking for generating leads and new opportunities to follow up on, asking people who are in the process of doing something with you is a great, simple way to do it. I mean, I always, even face-to-face, business-to-business sales, as I always counsel people and coach people, is the best time to ask for a referral is right when you've closed the order. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why most of the best technology companies in existence do it, right? And it's the reason why companies like Dropbox and Airbnb and Yelp and Nextdoor and so on, all these big guys, they all do it for a reason. Where our product makes it possible for smaller teams and people with smaller budgets, to get it, in a few minutes, right? So that's kind of the beauty of it. We're able to deliver a lot of value, in a really short amount of time. Excellent. Well, Jay, tell folks how they can find out more about CloudSponge and connect with you. CloudSponge.com is the easiest way to learn about CloudSponge, of course. Tons of ways to contact us are there, including, a link to my personal calendar. My email address is just jay@cloudsponge.com. And I pretty much own my name. If you just search for Jay Gibb on Google or LinkedIn or anywhere, you'll find me. All right. Excellent. Well, Jay, thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting. Cool. Thanks very much for having me, Andy. It's been great.
Thank you, Jay. Again, that was Jay Gibb, founder of CloudSponge, sharing his unique approach to generating referrals in real time. Joining me next is my usual partner in crime, Bridget Gleason, Vice President of Sales at Logs.io. As I mentioned in the open, today Bridget and I are going to talk about the 3 R's of sales that every sales professional needs to learn: readiness, relevance, and resilience. And stick around to learn exactly how the 3 R's can help you. So, Bridget, how are you doing today?
Captain Andy, I am still waiting for my Captain Fantastic something, tchotchke, something.
I think you had that.
You were going to make for me.
I think you had
Weren't
that
you going to make
backwards.
something for me? No, you were going to make something for me.
No, you were supposed to send me a gift using our friends at Sendoso to...
They never sent me anything.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, if they're listening.
I mean, we're now using them, but
oh, you are?
I can send you something. Yeah, but you want me to send that first before I get my gift? Give to get?
Yeah,
Is this a gift
exactly.
to get?
Give to get.
A gift
Perfect.
to get. All right, gift to get.
Perfect.
Gotcha. Now I got it.
Yeah, it's something with like my picture on it, right? Like a cookie with my face on it or something, you know?
Okay. If you really want that.
No, not really. How about
Really
a
want
very,
it.
very expensive bottle of wine?
That would
Actually,
be nice. I've got one sitting on my desk that
all
somebody
those
sent
things
to our CEO, and he hasn't been able to get it to Israel yet. So
the bottle of wine?
It's soon going to make its way to my house.
And then to me.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. You know, I've been off wine, alcohol, all the good stuff for...
Yes, you told me. How's that going? You may fill the audience in. I know about this very restrictive diet that you're on.
Well, it's like a reset. It's called Whole30. I'm sure tons of people listening to this have done it. My beautiful wife thought that we should do it. And, you know, I have a week to go. And, yeah, I mean, it's really not that hard. I mean, it's... The wine is the hardest part, I think, of all of it, even more so than... And I've got a sweet tooth, so even... It's just something when you're eating dinner. I like having a glass of wine. And I don't do it every day, but I mean, certain things I eat, I like having a glass of wine. But it's interesting. I do feel better. I mean, I think one of the things that's really... Maybe not the lesson, but one of the lessons you take away from doing this is that, because I'm very careful about not calling it a diet. It's really meant to be a reset. You don't count calories. You do it for 30 days. And I know a lot of people continue on past that and have had success losing weight. But it's you become extremely conscious of what you're putting in your body in a way I never was before, in terms of, you know, just how food producers put sugar in everything and so on and so forth. And, you know, you're reducing all sources of inflammation, which we know is a danger for health, especially as we get older. So yeah, I think on balance, I do feel better, but also feel better armed, let's say, knowing that, you know, if Vicky and I want to go out, my wife and I want to go out and, you know, have a nice rich meal somewhere, that, you know, the next 3-4 days we get back on the plan and sort of correct and get back on track. And so yeah, it was tough the first few weeks because your body started going through this adjustment of finding its source of energy and having to learn how to burn not your fat, because you don't have none, but for something like me, burning.
Oh yeah, right. If anybody's looked, you've got a lot that you really need to burn off, but okay.
Burning body fat. And I started made this strategic error, which I wasn't really paying attention to, is I'd signed up for this 62-mile bike ride. You know, not quasi race, but not that really racing, but, you know, trying to do reasonably well on it. And yeah, right in the middle of this diet, and I had no reserves. So I was riding with a friend that starts attacking on this one hill, and I'm like, yeah, wait for me at the top.
Yeah. When you just don't have any reserves.
It was a long day, because I could tell about mile 6 that it was going to be unpleasant. Now, normal people might have said, well, why don't we stop or do a shorter version? But as my wife said. Yeah, I did all 62.
Of course you did. That doesn't surprise me. Didn't surprise her either.
No, she's stopped being surprised or amused by that. But so anyway, yeah, another week. You can send me that wine.
Okay.
I'll be ready for it.
Just keep watching the mail. Keep watching the mail.
Just keep watching the mail.
Keep watching the mail.
Send it to my New York address. So today I thought we'd dive into something that I've been talking a lot about recently with clients, and also, you know, people in my audience is what called the 3 R's of selling. Remember the 3 R's when we were growing up in education? Reading, writing, arithmetic.
Yep.
And, those, obviously, they took license with the spelling of writing and arithmetic. But, and that was really hard to type out when I was writing an article about that. Autocorrect did not like writing and arithmetic. But I thought they were very similar. These were the basic building blocks of skill building in education in elementary schools, certainly when you and I were growing up. I don't know if they still use the 3 R's, but the thought was that if we could master these fundamental skills, then the world would be open to us. And I was thinking about that and spent a lot of time thinking about, are there sort of equivalents in sales? And so I came up with 3 R's for sales. And they are readiness, relevance, and resilience. And so readiness, a little different, perhaps, definition than some people are when they're thinking about sales readiness. I mean, to me, to be sales ready, fundamentally sales ready, means that you've achieved a certain amount of fluency or mastery with, the basic behaviors and habits that you and I talk about all the time that enable you to effectively connect and engage on a human level with another person. And inspire some trust so they'll invest their time in you. I've talked about my BALD acronym, BALD, really along the lines of that. Just master these core behaviors. And to some degree, you don't have to be an absolute master, but to the point where you have certain fluency in it, that sort of defines readiness. It's sort of like you look at it from the perspective of an athlete. It's like, or yourself, right? You want to, just having the basic fitness, right? Putting in the time to develop that basic fitness that enables you to compete.
I like it. Readiness. Okay, let's hear the others.
And so that's readiness. So relevance then is, and this really stems from this, we've all seen the research that, at least multiple studies I've seen, that a pretty high percentage of C-level executives report they receive no value from meeting with salespeople. Right?
Oh, me and my people. Yeah. Okay.
So, and I've seen one study the percentage was as high as 80% of CEOs were reporting that. So, in other words, salesperson wasn't relevant to the buyer's effort to quickly gather information to make a good decision. So, to me, relevance is a couple things. One, it's the depth of your knowledge about your product and how your customers derive value from it. And it's the depth of your knowledge about your customers, their industry, their business, their needs, their requirements.
It's such an important one. The relevance is so important to be relevant. I mean, back to your point where so many are reporting that, it's not relevant, that they don't get any value. That's breaks my heart.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that way because, here's the hard truth, and I sort of rage against this, or rant about this all the time, is it would be ideal if companies would invest more in the development of their salespeople, but they don't. And it's not going to change. And much as you and I benefited from having companies back in the day that invested a tremendous amount in us, you and I talked once before, we spent like 12 weeks our first year on the job at a training center, but we still had tremendous amounts to learn on our own, even then. And so it's even more of a demand now placed on sales professionals, given comparatively small amounts of investment that are made by many companies in their sales people, is to dive into it. You have to learn about your product. You have to learn about your customers. You have to do reading. You have to develop your business acumen. I was talking to somebody yesterday, said, he's still, and I did for a decade or more, I had the 10-minute MBA book in my top right-hand drawer of my desk. Because, if I heard of something or came across something I didn't know about in business, I was reading financial statements or whatever it was, that's what I went to. Right. So I had constantly had something, and this was even after, the internet was around. It was just an easy resource, to page through a chapter. So, but now you can find that all online in a heartbeat too, but you have to be curious and willing to make that investment to become relevant. And once you have that feeling of not sort of being on the outside looking in, but actually co-creating and collaborating with your prospects, you never want to lose it.
That's definitely true. That's one of the great parts of sales, is that collaboration.
Well, I think it's once you reach a certain level, is you begin to understand, it's like, oh wow, this is really different, right? This sales is really different than sales I was doing before. Now that I'm adding real value to my prospects, and not just saying I am, but actually am, right? Because I have the knowledge, I have the insights, I have the like I said, the business acumen to be able to listen to their requirements, their needs, their objectives, their vision of where they want to be, and sort of synthesize everything I know about my product and their requirements and what's happening technologically, maybe in the industry, and say, yeah, this I think is the direction we should head.
It takes a lot of, I guess, maturity also to be able to hold that position. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to hold that position and really claim that spot as a peer and someone who can add value. And I don't think maturity you need to be old, but I think it goes back to you, if you've got that readiness, and if you have done the work to be relevant, then you do have the right to hold that position, but you've got to do the work in order to be able to have that. You don't, it's not your right as a salesperson to have that spot, right, and to have that space.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that plays.
I think maybe in the olden days, we could claim that spot because they needed to go through a salesperson to get the information they needed. And so by definition, we were relevant because we were the gatekeepers of information to the information they wanted. Well, that's not the case anymore. Yes,
absolutely. I mean, that is absolutely part of it. But I think part of the other thing, though, too, it starts playing into the third R a little bit, which is, as I talk about resilience, is it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
It takes an investment where the payoff is not immediate. And,
that's right.
And, you may lose some deals until you get to that point, in ways that will be personally very frustrating to you, because you think, yeah, I'm there, I've done it, but you're not quite there yet. Right.
Right.
And, as I like to say, the only thing that's really 100% predictable in sales is that something will go wrong. And, and I mean, right? I mean, it's sales. What is sales?
Definitely.
Sales is a complex interaction between two or more complex human beings. And so it's just guaranteed something's going to go wrong. So this idea of resilience as a mindset, as you're coming of age and you're sort of impatient for things to have happened, and you're not necessarily succeeding as much as you want to, or even once you're there and you encounter adversity, is resilience to me is really that sort of third R. And I've talked about it before. I love the quote from, I've told you before, one of my favorite quotes from Paul Tillich, who was an American philosopher and theologian who said, awareness of the ambiguity of, life's highest highs as well as your deepest lows is a definite symptom of maturity. And I think that's something people really need to keep in mind, is that it's, there are going to be highs, there are going to be lows. In the grand scheme of things, they're not that critical. It's, what are you doing to continue to improve and to serve your customers and to increase your relevance and readiness, and then good things happen.
Yeah, Brit, those I like your acronym BALD. I probably like that one better because I just like the acronym BALD. But I think the 3 R's are just super important. They're basic and foundational and fundamental.
Yeah, they're your building blocks.
They're your building blocks. Yeah.
But that's, I think, for me is and we've talked about this as well before, is the further I get into my career in sales, which again spans 4 decades now, is what I find is actually, it really, I want to emphasize the basic things more because I understand more than I ever did. And increasingly becomes increasingly clear to me every year I'm in sales and I work with more companies and more salespeople, is that it is not the complex things that makes the difference. It is the simple things that make the difference.
It is this, one of my sales reps, he's one of my enterprise and just an amazing, super experienced guy. One of his phrases that I like is he says, you've got to be brilliant at the basics. Be brilliant at the basics. And that's sort of his, what he also talks to kind of the newer and younger reps about is you just gotta, if you do anything, just be brilliant at the basics and you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always, I like to have athletic analogies for some of these, but if you think about, I like swimming and I follow swimming closely, and I just remember like at one event, I don't know if it was Olympics or somewhere, but they're interviewing, I believe it was Michael Phelps, but I've no other swimmers, the same conversation. It's like between, the preliminaries and the finals or preliminaries and the semifinals or whatever. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to cool down, but then I'm going to go look at the film because I don't think I got my flip turn quite right. Right? It's like, oh yeah, here's a guy who's the greatest ever, right? And he wants to go spend time looking at his turn on film to see what he could do different. Something that he does several hundred times a day in training. So it's that level of attention to basics that if you're brilliant at them, as your sales rep says, really makes a difference. Really makes a difference. I mean, you can master, I don't call them arcane skills, but I know people who spend a disproportionate amount of their time trying to get really good at presentations, but they haven't invested in being relevant.
Right.
And so they can give a good presentation, but they don't have the depth behind it, right? And the customer can see right through it.
You can tell right away.
Right. So, invest in the basics. Readiness, resilience, or relevance and resilience. You should be in good shape.
All good.
All right. Friends, thank you again for joining us, Bridget, as always.
Wiley Wednesdays.
Another week went by, and I still don't.
Until you give me a new one, I'm going to keep saying it.
Okay, now this time, unlike other times when I said I was writing it down, I actually am writing it down in my notebook.
All right. Write it down.
A name for Wednesdays.
All right.
How about if we just call the Wednesdays Wanda? Like a name.
Give it a name.
Wanda.
Okay, Wendy.
There you go. Huh? All right. Another thing to think about.
It's on your list.
That's right.
Okay.
All right,
Until
Bridget,
next time.
As always, and friends, thank you as always. Till next time.
Sounds good.
Okay, friends, that was Accelerate for the week. First of all, I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to thank my guest, Jay Gibb, and my friend, Bridget Gleason. Join me again next week as I welcome Chris Ahrens to Accelerate. Chris is a partner at Inc. Digital and co-author of a book titled The Digital Helix, Transforming Your Organization's DNA to Thrive in the Digital Age. This is a very relevant topic to many that we've been discussing recently. In particular, what would a digital transformation of your sales look like anyway? And of course, no episode of Accelerate would be complete without sharing stories with Bridget. As always, she'll be joining me for our weekly conversation. So be sure to join us then. Thanks again to our sponsor, Discover.org, for their ongoing support of Accelerate. Thanks again for joining me, and until next week, good selling, everyone.